Hi everyone, it's me Nandini Devi, the Shakti Guru, and I am standing on Muncie Lenape land. Just want to shout that out right now. And I'm going to be sharing a little bit about white supremacy and narcissism with a spiritual lens on that, my vision, my thoughts, my opinions on this. So please take care of yourself by acknowledging what your stance is, what your opinions are, what's yours, and what you're just engaging with here on this platform. Okay, be respectful of my content and my energy, please, and I will be respectful of yours. So we're going to start right away with just a little intention setting, because I love to do that. I think engaging with any topic, or whether it's psychological, political, whatever it is, I take a spiritual space there because it is important for me to stay engaged with my guides. So together, we're going to take a deep breath. Exhale. And I call forward my guides, my angels, my elevated ancestors to help me to put my ego aside and help me to channel any messages that I need to channel at this time, to bring forth the information that needs to come forward in a mutually healing way. Okay, so I have been noticing a lot of videos on here on YouTube about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. And I've also been noticing some popping up from actual narcissists and sociopaths. And I found that to be really interesting. I think it's actually amazing to see people who have these mental illnesses and mental disorders talking about their own experience too, because there are so many perspectives to what's happening. And I think the fire and the passion for which those videos are made about narcissistic abuse is so important as well, because it gives us some empowerment in situations where we may feel disempowered. So with narcissistic abuse, we might become disempowered. We might feel really depleted, drained, and just helpless in the situations that we're in. We might not have even noticed we were experiencing narcissistic abuse, okay? Because it happens sometimes in a very covert way, and there's so many different ways that narcissism can show up. So definitely check out that information. There's tons of it out here right now. Find what resonates for you. Talk to your therapist, your counselor, etc. This is not a video about noting what is narcissism. So that's not the information that I'll be sharing. What I'm sharing about has to do with a little bit of just expanding it out, right? So on a spiritual level, I look at things as a microcosm and a macrocosm, right? And I see that in my spiritual practice, and maybe some of you might align with this philosophy, that what's happening within us is being expressed into the world. So we're engaging with things that are within ourselves. And when I think about what's inside of me, I'm like, okay, it's not just stuff that I want there or that I put there. Stuff got put there for me, right? Like I came into a sublet, you know, a fully furnished apartment or house, and there's stuff there that I don't really understand or know very much about. I didn't put it there, I didn't choose it. And we can take this philosophy back into the Bhagavad Gita, which says, you know, when Krishna and Arjuna are talking, and Arjuna is like, I don't want to murder a bunch of people, so like, can we not do this? And Krishna is like, don't think about it like that. You're not here to murder people and like do something harmful. You're actually here on a mission. You have a mission on this planet. You have karma that you need to play out, and this is the way it is. You have to take your role, you have to play your role, and you have to do it to your best of your ability, and not overthink somebody else's karma or somebody else's dharma and path, you know? So on that lens, we come in, Krishna says we come into these bodies, they're like clothes, right? And we put on these clothes, they're not ours, we're just wearing them for the time being. So these bodies come with karma. They come with all this stuff inside. So you come in here, you're like, okay, what's this, what's this? We wake up into this body. Whenever you wake up, whenever that timeline is for you, you wake up, go back to sleep, wake up, go back to sleep, wake up. When you wake up, you notice all these things in here, all these karmas, all these experiences that you have to have into this world. Some of them are racialized experiences. Some of them have to do with your gender, your sexuality, your finances, like, you know, being a survivor. There's these different things that show up. You might be prone to learning astrology or being a doctor or, you know, crafting something, creating something, being an innovator. There's so many different karmas. They aren't just good or bad. they just exist. So when I think about things in the microcosm and macrocosm, I see that I have these little things going on inside me, but they expand out into the world. And some of the things that were placed there were not things that I put, and that's where I'm gonna kind of tune into, which is one of the things that I didn't put in here is colonized thinking and white supremacy, the standards of white supremacy. So some people hear white supremacy and they're like, oh my God, we're gonna talk about white people. White supremacy doesn't just have to do with race and white people. It has to do with a whole system of power and hierarchy. Okay, just like how feminism sounds like it's just about women, but then when you learn about the philosophies of feminism, they have to do with a variety of hierarchies and disempowerment, abuse of those hierarchies, and things that have been put in place, constructs like buildings that have been created to dwell within, right? And so when you are in this space, this is how you navigate it. This is how you deal with this. This is where the water is. This is where the kitchen is. This is where the living room is. And you notice that it's created for certain people more than others will benefit from this space, okay? That's it. That's what white supremacy, feminism, all those things are. They're just literally just an awareness that there's a structure and the structure benefits this person. It's a fucking toilet versus a urinal. You know what I'm saying? It's like just a structure. So stop stressing yourself out right now when we say white supremacy, because it is important for us to note what these structures are. And if you are having a reaction, that's okay. You could sit with it, meditate on that, journal some, because there's something in there for you. There's something to engage with. Let's stay here with our hearts and our minds, our bodies. Let's stay connected. So if you need to pause, take a deep breath. Okay, so these are difficult topics overall, talking about narcissism. Okay, just even the word itself there too could be triggering if you dealt with narcissistic abuse, if you have narcissistic qualities, if you are a narcissist. Sometimes these things could come up and you're like, so on my search, on my journey online, I've been like, oh my God, like, am I a narcissist? Do I have narcissistic qualities? Do I, have I endured narcissistic abuse? I've stayed very open to any possibility. And what I've learned is that I have CPTSD, and I've been considering recently whether or not I'm autistic. And I need to still get some feedback on that from professionals, so we're working on that. But one of the things that I was learning about autism, I saw this video, actually, it was really interesting. This person was just like, yeah, like sometimes autistic qualities look like narcissism, but the difference is that there's an intention behind these things. And then also I've been noticing with narcissistic abuse and talking about that I started to feel like I saw those qualities in myself. And then I saw a video about CPTSD and how people with CPTSD can take on characteristics of narcissism. And another layer of that, if you've endured narcissistic abuse, you can carry those traits as a survival tool. That's something I can definitely get behind, understand, wrap my head around, because I have noticed, and one of the reasons why I've been doing extensive recovery and healing in my life is because I noticed that the abuse that I had endured had become something that I was now carrying around. I had become, I had started to wear those colors, I had started to use those things for survival. So now they were starting to show up in the world with me. I'm hurt, so I'm going to hurt others. That's the cycle. So in order for me to not hurt other people, I have to address the hurt that I've experienced, validate it, hold other people accountable and responsible, but I have to be responsible for my own healing. Okay? Whew. Now, in contemplating all these different things, right? I'm like, am I a narcissist? Do I have narcissistic qualities? What's, the CPTSD, the autism, neurodivergence in general, like just really embarking on this whole like self-awareness journey and mental health, mental illness, healing journey. And realizing that as a person of color and in intersections, right? So my family is West Indian, we're Indo-Caribbean, that's the term that's been used. Like I said, I don't know how I feel about that yet, because not everybody comes from India. It's South Asian diaspora into the Caribbean. And then I'm also American, I'm queer, I'm trans, I have all these different intersections. And then this part of me is experiencing, let me pause for a second, because I feel like I'm gonna go into a place. Hold on. And we're not gonna edit this out. We're gonna stay present. We're gonna stay present, right? I know it's YouTube and you just want to watch it straight through and it's just like a little thing for you, but really this is real talk. Like this is real energy and real experience in real life for me. So in processing all these things and asking all these questions, this topic came up to me about white supremacy, because I was listening to the traits around narcissism and like how the abuse ends up showing up, like how it might show up in me if I have if I've endured narcissistic abuse and what that would look like. And I realized that that same thing that I feel about narcissistic abuse actually comes from white supremacy too. So in those intersections of who I am, I started acknowledging that I feel the same type of pressure, right? Like, okay, with a narcissist, they're the center. You have to cater to their feelings. You have to do what they want, or think they may harm you. They may harm you psychologically, emotionally, physically, sexually. There could be abuse in other ways if you don't just align with what they want and you don't censor them. And as a person of color with white people, you can be affected because of the power dynamics there in the workplace, in a relationship, in a friendship, you know, at the doctor's office, in the medical system in general. This person could start to do something that is uncomfortable for you or not what you want to do, but you have to center them. You have to center them because they could blow up on you. They could treat you a certain way. They could take something away from you because they have a privilege and an authority. Okay? And I know there's a lot of white people that are like, oh, well, I'm poor. But like, if you're in a clothing store, and we've seen a lot of this on video, okay? You're in a clothing store with a person of color, especially let's say a black person, and you feel a certain type of way, you know, you feel a certain type of way, you go off on that, you need to call the cops, you need to do this, that, and the other. We see how that ends. It's really like it doesn't matter how much money. You could have come there with $1 in your pocket and none in your bank account. But the fact that you're white, and that is a whole entire, when we go microcosm, macrocosm, okay? The microcosm is the one-on-one dynamic of narcissism. And then the macrocosm is white supremacy and like everyone who doesn't fit into the higher parts of the hierarchy, okay? So there's something there that is really clicking to me about narcissistic abuse. And we're talking so much about narcissistic abuse, and we need to incorporate, because the thing is that the narratives that have been given to us, the stories that we hear, you know, they're only just now starting to diversify, where perspectives are given from different people, different races, gender, sexuality, different perspectives, you know, different levels of ability. Like, that's only just now happening. And so there is this like new idea formulating, or not a new idea, but like a clarity actually coming from me processing things about narcissistic abuse. I'm realizing like, not only is this something I've dealt with in my personal life one-on-one with another person, you know, whether in family or relationships, but it's also something that in the world I deal with. So I'm actually recovering from the narcissism that happens in white supremacy. Like, those same behaviors that I would be taught to act out by a narcissist who needs me to act a certain way, needs me to hide myself, needs me to perform something, needs me to step away from who I truly am and do this thing or else, that same pressure is being placed on people of color, Black, Indigenous, people of color, to perform something in alignment with whiteness, in alignment with that hierarchy, in alignment with cis hetero, white, Eurocentric, whatever. Okay? And that is abuse. It's abuse. And we aren't making videos right now. Well, I'm making this one right now, okay? But we aren't really saying like, hey, this is narcissistic. This is narcissistic abuse. I'm hearing narcissism and I'm seeing it in the dynamic of white supremacy, you know? So how we engage with each other, even, okay, so now this is what I'm gonna say when I was like, oh, you know, this isn't just like white people are, because even though it says white supremacy, it affects everyone. That means, okay. Shout out to the other light-skinned brown people out there. You're carrying white supremacy, and it's not because of the color of your skin. It's not because of the color of your skin. There's a hierarchy, okay? There's a hierarchy within white supremacy. White supremacy says the cis, hetero, white man is here, and let's say the disabled, trans, Black person is here, right? And there's this spectrum of people within that space. And that's a hierarchy. That's a construct. A construct bookends. It does not have freedom. It does not have fluidity. It does not have openness. It does not have you can be whoever you really truly are. It has this and then everything in between. And there's a hierarchy. There's a chain of command. There's a ladder here. There's definite violence involved in this process too. The violence of suppression, oppression. People are out here being like, it's not violent if you don't get hit. Well, try being in an emotionally abusive relationship your whole life. You try being in that, and chances are, if you're like, oh, it's not real, you're in denial of stuff that you've gone through. So I'm not even gonna, like, take your time. Take your time. I'm not shaming you. I'm not blaming you. But there are a lot of people, especially white people, but I'm gonna say a lot of people because it could be all races, genders, whatever, that are like, you know, people are out here saying everything is violence. Because there's more than one version of violence. Your association and an understanding of violence is that somebody punched or killed or stabbed somebody, and that's your scope of the word violence. That's your scope of the word violence. That's not everybody's understanding of the word violence. Violence enacted on someone could be psychological, emotional, but your depth is physical, right? You're not in the spiritual, you're not in the psychological, you're not in the emotional vastness of all of our experiences, are you? So you're speaking for yourself. For you, that's how you see violence. That's fine on you. That's where you're at with your healing, but you don't put that on anybody. You know, so when we're collectively talking, when somebody's naming their experience, they're naming their experience, you don't have to have that experience. You don't have to talk about that experience. And chances are you're either in denial or you don't want to see it, and you don't want to see the ways that you've been harmful. You don't want to see how you've been harmed, and you don't want to see how you're going to harm other people because of the way that you've been harmed. Yes, because cisgender white men can be emotionally and psychologically harmed. Yeah. Okay. I just want to put this stuff out there about, you know, narcissism and white supremacy, because I'm trying to raise this awareness in myself more than anything. I'm speaking to something that I want to acknowledge in myself, going back to how this isn't just about white people, because as people of color, we had to take on the traits of the narcissist. We had to take on the traits of the colonizer to protect ourselves, to walk among you all, to not get harmed and hurt, and we still may. But if we disalign with that white supremacy, we get more and more harmed. We may end up homeless, physically harmed. Systems will push us to the margins and the out. Like, the more you stay in alignment with your truth, right? You don't do whatever you got to do to your body. you know, to your mind. You don't drink yourself into oblivion to deal with whatever. You don't do, you know, you're not trying to bleach your skin. You know, like you're not trying to do these, and you're not even trying. It's thinking too. Like you have to think, you have to align. And like white people will never understand that type of struggle of having to really like make your mind something that it's not. You have to change your culture. You have to strip away your language. You have to change your tone of voice. You have to fucking always perform. You're always on stage. And then when we step into our truth, the only way we can do that safely is when we all do it together, because then we're not being singled out. But you know what? There are brave people out here stepping out on their own, and they're celebrated by some, but in a way, these still dehumanized, created on pedestals, like some kind of oddity, because they stepped out of something. Like, ooh, let's worship this. No one can be like this. No one could be like this. No one could do this. No one could do that. But this is cool. It's an oddity. It's an experiment. It's a curiosity. Nah, this is a fucking person aligning with their truth. You know? And a way to separate ourselves from the ability to do that is we put them on a pedestal. We make them into a celebrity. We make them into some kind of like, yeah, this is a one-time deal. This person's just being eccentric, you know? Or for some people of color, they're just being fucking crazy. And those people never make it onto a platform. They never get heard or seen. They get shifted away from the public eye immediately. But I just want to put that out there because I want to hear, you know, if you want to share what you feel, maybe think about it, maybe meditate on it, what you think about this, you know? And don't come with your negativity on my page because I don't need it. That's what I'm saying. I just don't want your negative vibes. But just something to think about. Just something to put out there. Hopefully this has helped some people. I know actually is going to touch on something here. I feel like a part of me is going to speak to a part of you. Okay? Well, I'm going to put it that way. Love you all.